Last month, April 2020, was my 2-year anniversary living here in Orlando. So I thought now would be a very good time for me to kind of share with you guys some tips that I found very helpful when I decided to make the move here, as well as provide you guys with things that I see as a benefit and a negative of living here. First, we're gonna start with 5 tips to help you make your move here to the Orlando area, followed by 5 negatives I have found, as well as 5 positives. Now, I do not claim to be a financial expert or planner or anything like that. I just think that these were things that helped me when I was making my move to the Orlando area and thought that I would share it with you all. Number 1 is to start applying for jobs at least a month out. Now, of course, this applies if you don't already have a job that you have lined up that you are transferring to, and you're just starting from scratch. You made the decision that you want to move to Orlando, whether it's for the theme parks or the weather or whatever reason makes you want to move here. You got to start by having a job. Now, if you have a special market that you work in, maybe you hone in on that special market and see what type of available companies and jobs there are in the area to kind of prepare you for your move here. Now, I know it can take a while to get a resume sent out, submitted, reviewed, and get a turnaround for somebody to call you in for an interview. So you don't want to start applying too early, but you do kind of want to get the ball rolling. At least if somebody calls you for an interview and they like what they see, they can say, can you come in? And you could say, you know what? I'm going to be there in a week and a half. Maybe you can do your first interview over the phone, and then when you get to the Orlando area, you can have your first in-person interview. There are also many temp agencies here in Orlando, as well as the entertainment industry and the hotel industry, but all those jobs take time to process and to get responses from, so you definitely want to give it enough time to give them a chance to reach out to you. Now, all those jobs do come in a range of salaries, so if you have a specific cost of living that you are accustomed to, then you really do want to plan ahead in advance and kind of look at the jobs that are offered here and the salaries. Now, I know number 1 kind of seems like a gimme that you need to apply for jobs, but I found it very useful to do my research in advance and to get a couple temp agencies lined up. Now, some people are afraid of that. They don't want to move unless they have a job. I know when I moved to Los Angeles, it was kind of a gimme that you were not going to get a job unless you actually lived there. So I took the jump and decided to move to Los Angeles without employment, and I just took a big risk, which leads me to number 2. You want to make sure that you have a couple months of your bills saved up. Now, I know that's easier said than done for some people, but that doesn't mean that it's not a good suggestion. The more money you have saved up, the better off you are going to be. Number 3, as well as saving a couple months of your bills, you want to make sure that you have all your moving expenses set aside. Now, this includes your boxes, renting, storage, depending on how long until you find a permanent place. These are all added expenses that when it comes time to move, you kind of forget about. Now, I know a lot of these are kind of a given, but they're just things that I definitely made sure that I thought about and had on my checklist when I was planning my move here. Number 4 is to rent an Airbnb when you first get here. Now, unless you know somebody that lives here that is going to let you bunk up with them until you get settled, it's a good idea to do a short-term option like an Airbnb. This will give you the flexibility that after your 30 days or 15 days or whatever duration you decide to stay in that place, you will have the option to quickly move into a permanent place whenever you found that. And number 5 is my personal suggestion. I say rent before you buy. Now, again, that's more of if you don't know the area. If this is your first time getting acclimated with the Orlando area, there are many different neighborhoods, surroundings, environments, and traffic is pretty bad. So you may think, oh, I'm gonna be 20 miles away from the theme parks. Well, that could really be like 45 minutes to an hour with traffic. So until you really get used to the areas and the traffic patterns, I personally think it's a good idea to rent until you are sure of the area that you want to live in. Now, those are my tips on how to get to Orlando. So when you get to Orlando, why do you want to move here? Like, what are the perks? Number 1 is my main reason for moving here, and that is the theme parks. Now, I'm sure if you are planning to move to Orlando, a small benefit is definitely going to be the parks. And depending on what area of town you do live in, you could be 20 minutes, 30 minutes, 45 minutes, or an hour away from the theme parks. Now, an hour may seem like a long time to get to the theme parks, but that just depends on what area of town you decided to live in. But still, an hour to get to Disney sounds pretty good to me. Number 2 reason I like living here in Orlando is the weather. Now, I don't particularly like the days where it's 120 degrees. Okay, so it doesn't get that hot, but it does get pretty hot. But I do certainly like not having snow. If you are not a fan of snow or shoveling snow or very cold weather, it is a great place to be. Plus, if the weather is nice, it makes you want to go outside. And there is so much to do here in Orlando besides just the theme parks. Which brings me to number 3, mini road trip accessibility. Florida is a big state, which gives you many opportunities to take road trips, whether it's a trip to Daytona, or to Tampa, or to St. Augustine, or to Miami. There are so many places that even I haven't got to explore yet. It's like endless possibilities just in Florida alone. Number 4, if you like beaches, well, there are tons of beaches around here for you to enjoy. And not only beaches, there are many parks. That includes state parks with trails. There are rivers where you can go see manatees. If you like doing outdoor activities, kayaking, surfing. So if you like nature, you're in luck. And number 5 pro for me that I have found is happy people. I just feel like most of the people I encounter are happy. And I know for me personally, my happiness is a direct correlation with the sun. If it is sunny out, I am usually in good spirits. And if it is gloomy out, it definitely reflects my personality and how I'm feeling. So to constantly have so much sunshine around here in Florida, it is definitely a perk. And I feel like it's not just me. I feel there are many other people that have this outward reaction to the sun. And again, I just feel people are pretty happy here. Now for the cons. I know you don't want to see any cons if you're thinking of moving here, but number 1 for me is rent expenses. Rent here is pretty expensive. Now, it's not Los Angeles or San Francisco expensive, but it is still pretty expensive. When you're not married and you don't have a roommate, it's very difficult to come up with $1,200 for rent, depending on where you're working. So if you already know what type of job you are going to get and the salary range, you definitely want to start looking at the available places that you can rent. And if there's nothing within your budget, then maybe you decide to look at a roommate. All I know is that I hear from some people that it's really hard to afford living here because their salaries don't really correlate with the rent prices. So that can be a little challenging. Now, I know theme parks are definitely a positive, but I put them as number 2. Theme park annual prices. Say you are a family of 4 who all want Disney passes that don't have blackout days. Well, you're looking at $60 or $70 a person. Or you can get ones that have blackout days and are pretty much blacked out for the summer and for holidays, and they're much cheaper. But still, you're probably looking at a couple $100s as a family to get an annual pass just to Disney alone. Now, that's not factoring in the cost for Universal or for SeaWorld or Legoland, whatever type of theme park that your family is interested in. Those are all expenses that I'm sure you're not used to paying and saving for each month wherever you currently live. So although it is a perk to be able to go to the theme parks, the expenses of them can kind of get to you. As an extension of that, number 3 I say is theme park merchandise. Now, you've got to the theme park, you're paying for your annual pass, but then all these new things come out for you to buy. You got pins, you got magic bands, you got different food to try, not even just merchandise. New rides that open and you want to get the grand opening t-shirt. All of these things start adding up very, very quickly. So again, if you don't have a big disposable income, you may start to see the theme parks as a negative because you want to buy all of these things and you just don't have the budget to. Number 4 negative is allergies. I know for me personally, in the summertime, I start getting all these bumps on me. I don't even know where they came from. I started taking a daily allergy pill and I've been pretty good, but I do know people that have to get shots. Since moving here, they don't know why they start breaking out and they have to get weekly shots for allergies. That's not saying everybody is going to get allergies, but that is something that you may have to deal with and you gotta be prepared for it. And number 5 con, traffic. It is very, very heavily populated here. Thank goodness they are working on expanding our main interstate, I-4. Work on that has been going on for years and they're still working on it to this day. But I really don't know how that's going to help. Hopefully it'll be good. fingers crossed. You just have to be ready for it. Know that it's gonna take you a while to get to work depending on where you live, and it's gonna take you a while to get to the theme parks if you go after work for rush hour. It's just gonna take you a while to get to a lot of places, so you just gotta mentally be prepared for that. But I hope you found these tips useful. Again, my 5 tips for moving here are kind of just what I found was useful to mentally prepare for moving here, for budget-wise, for finding a job, to not knowing the area and figuring out where was safe to live and where I should rent from, and then all the pros and the cons that I have so far found living here. I still love it. Overall, I love living here. If you've seen my other videos, you already know that I have an annual pass to Disney and Universal and SeaWorld. I love going to the theme parks. It's definitely a perk having it in my backyard here. And I'm honestly glad I made the decision to move here. Now, if you'll excuse me, it's 95 degrees and I'm gonna go sit out on my patio and do some sunbathing. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please remember to give it a thumbs up, subscribe so you can see some of my Orlando adventures, and until next time with another helping of a burger with everything.